Audio. Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone who is somehow already here, and hello to everyone who's watching the recording after this. Let me just get everything set up that I can only set up after it's started. That's muted. That's dismissed. That is synchronized. Okay, everything else is already open, and Epic Pen started up. Bookmarks are ready. The map is ready to use because we're going to color stuff in briefly. While we wait a few minutes for people to show up, we'll just go over some other things real quick. Copper continues peaking above and then falling just back under $6 per pound. Are we lagging? No. Okay. So copper is up around $6 per pound, entering in the range that I originally called that it would eventually hit this decade, way back when I first said that you would see it sometime during probably the later 2020s get up and do somewhere between $6 and $10 per pound as global copper production eventually starts to hit its plateau, which we're just entering into that phase now. Not just there yet. Initially, a lot of people, including those in the industry, kind of thought copper was going to do more of a traditional brief peak and overcurve and then gentle slope, but it's looking more like it's going to be a drawn out plateau phase that we're entering into right now around the area of 22 or 23 million tons per year. But the reasons for this most recent price surge in particular is on the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia, a mine responsible for about 3% of the entire world's copper supply has been shut down for at least a year or for at least the rest of this year because of a severe mountainside collapse that basically flooded the mine with the open pit mine operations with mud and then the dried up remains of the side of the mountain that fell down into it during some really heavy monsoon issues. You also have stalls in Peru due to similar natural disasters, just on a smaller scale. Those smaller mines should be open within a few months. And then you, of course, have Chile, the world's largest copper producer, whose output has been on decline since around 2020, when they stopped issuing any new mining permits or extensions of existing ones, and have only issued two in the last 6 years now. Their new neo-Nazi government dude is coming into power soon, so I guess we'll see if he has a different attitude about it. But they were outputting 6 million tons per year, close to a third, or now technically a quarter of the world's supply. And they've declined down to around or under 5 million tons per year over the last 6 years. So they will continue going downwards, obviously, if nothing changes. And there's the occasional supply disruptions because of the unending, 12-way civil war that's always going on in the Congo. And the Trump administration constantly threatening tariffs on everything, which has buyers both in the US and in other places around the world constantly panicking now and over purchasing to make sure they're able to buy a lot of things, in this case, copper and copper products ahead of time before prices potentially go up. And not just in the US, but in other countries and groups of countries, the same thing is being done where they're now also placing larger orders before tariffs potentially get implemented on certain countries because they kind of would act like sanctions in that uh, there would get back taxes applied to them if they bought copper from countries that the U.S. was placing the 25% thing on. So everybody's doing ahead of time bulk orders in case those tariffs come into existence. And then we have silver, who has kept going well and beyond the actual range that it should be in. It should be between 60 and 70 because of the current situation. However, alongside gold, remember, silver is one of the financial market panic metals. So everything going on in the world and that might potentially go on has the markets panicking. So that extra weight is adding on to the silver updrive. But silver, even without the panic pressure, would still be in the 60s or 70s. All right. Enough people should be here now, theoretically. No, 10, 15. Oh, no, that's views total. All right. Well, regardless of if everybody's here or not, we're going to go over some stuff real quick. I'll give people another minute or two, I guess, by starting with the Russia Ukraine stuff. So, strikes continued as per usual. Ukraine has continued hitting refineries and storage depots, and especially continuing the psychological clock wait around time of waiting until repair work looks like it's about finished on a refinery that they struck months ago, and then immediately right as the refinery is about to be brought back online, striking that refinery with drones and missiles again. They have also now entered double digits in terms of the total number of oil tankers. They're not technically all Russian. A lot of them are flagged as other countries, but they're oil tankers that are willing to continue shipping things for Russia and operating dark and without any valid insurance. So I think, yeah, four. It's four. Four. Ukraine has taken out by some means in the Mediterranean Sea, and then seven total in the Black Sea that they have struck with either regular drones or water surface drones. The methodology out in the Mediterranean is uncertain. It's unknown whether they have really long range water drones and got through the Dardanelles undetected, or if they just did like spy sabotage stuff and had dudes like plant timed explosives in some of the engine rooms or whatever. But for Russia's oil tankers out in the Mediterranean over the last 6 months since summer of last year, four Russian oil tankers have mysteriously, inexplicably exploded at sea in the Mediterranean. But including the three in one night that were struck 2 nights ago in the Black Sea. Brings total in the Black Sea taken out to seven, four in the Mediterranean. So that is a total of 11 of the quote unquote uh, dark fleet, or whatever the given chosen term of the day for it is, that have been rendered inoperable to some extent. And I think that was about it in their regard for the immediate moment, other than the growing prevalence of Russian infantry uh, relying on. Let me try to draw my best horse here. Here's a horse, and here's a dude on the horse with an AK. Here, there you go. That's an AK. The Russian infantry. You may have seen the videos yourself, but has entered actual battered down Eastern Front Wehrmacht territory now, and is literally actually, I guess they can't afford the motorcycles or the dirt bikes anymore, so they're actually sending guys in on horses now instead. So that's a thing that's happening now in 2026 in the 21st century. All right, we got everybody in now. Maybe. Oh, we actually lost viewers. Never mind. All right. None of the usual talkers are here, but anyways, we're just gonna go through with things. So, starting last night or the night before that, I can't even remember which, Iran has begun overnight at least shutting down its airspace. Uh, whichever night it was, issuing no TAMs, I believe is the what that term is. Where's the out of the radar image? Where's the radar image for it? Was it in extensions further down? Oh, yeah, here it was. Or here was one of them at least. Shortly after issuing all flights ground overnight, within a few minutes after that, there were only three left in the air, and after they landed, the skies were empty. So, in expected preparation for what they assume is coming in some form from the U.S. and or maybe the IDF as well, they have begun uh, at night, at least, not during the daytime, but at night they have begun shutting down the sky. And it was noticed recently by some financial institutions that Iranian officials have begun suddenly transferring large sums of money out of the country to various accounts elsewhere. Russia, neutral Switzerland, who deals with anyone and even willingly sold the gold to Nazis, but nobody judged Switzerland for anything. Uh, I doubt that the Cayman Islands, because I mean that's right in front of the U.S., but they've begun suddenly moving out large amounts of money, which again is something you don't do unless you think you need to do that. And in their case, if you need to do that, that would mean you are expecting that there is a higher than just like 1 or 2% chance that you may actually have to run away. As everything is burning and burning and burning. Everyone has continued, everyone who hadn't already has continued evacuating their embassies, all their any of their citizens, and now other countries. First, it was Canada, and now others are piling on. Other countries are starting to find out and get pissed at Iran that some of their citizens apparently, while trying to make their way to somewhere to get out of the country, were killed, whether knowingly or whether just in crossfire, by the internal security forces in the midst of the uprising and chaos that's going on. So that serves as an indicator that they're past a broken down level where there's any real care being taken by the internal security force, and they're kind of just literally just shooting at people they see moving on the streets. But I guess not into the bigger crowds this time because they kind of learned that the giant crowds of hundreds of thousands of people will just overrun them and literally stampede them to death. And some of Iran's Caspian Sea ships, primarily cargo ships, have spontaneously taken on water and sunk in the Caspian Sea for, as of the moment, reasons unknown. So it might be somebody doing something, or maybe they're just really old, poorly maintained ships that are mostly from the 1960s. So hard to tell either way, at least for the moment. And as implied in the title, Carrier Strike Group is on its way in. It was somewhere around here, and then 24 hours ago, it was seen, I believe, right around here. So at the moment, it should be past the Strait of Malacca and should, or past Singapore and the narrowest point of the Strait of Malacca, and should be thus somewhere around like here. And so by tomorrow night, it will be closer to Sri Lanka. And then it would not be like in the Persian Gulf until probably Monday. But also, the satellite imagery and reports of its position could also be uh, misdirects, and it could be actually ahead of where it is supposedly. The Abraham Lincoln Strike Group, which is a super carrier, 70 to 80 F-15s and 35s, plus 4 destroyers and either 1 or 2 missile cruisers, plus always two attack submarines, is on its way. Unknown whether, if indeed the U.S. does intend to intervene directly, it will wait right up until that moment, until the group is there, or whether it will it and or the IDF will begin stuff before then, be beginning to do so under the protected knowledge that now this uh, extra fist of force is on its way in. But expectation that things are going to happen intervention wise has continued escalating as the U.S. has continued evacuating valuable assets and non essential personnel from bases in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, UAE, and various countries have now been telling their citizens to get out of those places as well, because if the regime, wants to respond to any intervention by going out in a blaze of glory and uh, launching however many hundred or 1,000+ ballistic missiles they can get in the air as they can, then those places will likely be within the retaliation sphere, as well as Israel will be, as the regime in Tehran stated that even if only the U.S. intervenes, they're still going to strike Israel anyways, because I guess they figure, they're on their way out, then they might as well get one last shot in. And various airlines have begun canceling flights to and around the Gulf and to and from Israel as well. And nations that have a lot of citizens who are in Israel are also now telling their citizens they need to evacuate Israel, because Israel will likely be on the receiving end of whatever blaze of glory Iran decides to go down in. Again, if the regime does respond that way and doesn't just decide to run away with the money that they already sent away into most likely Russia. Sorry, I had to yawn for a second. Did we get anybody? Oh, there they are. It can't close the Strait of Hormuz. With what capability would it do so? Its non-existent navy that is comprised of speedboats and dudes with AKs. Its grand capability literally consists of boarding oil tankers. We have enormous portions of our Air Force and naval assets, which, both of which include the standard, high altitude stealth drones. We could literally just drone strike their excuse of a navy out of existence in like 24 hours. We did that before, actually, back in the 80s, without drones. We did it with regular aircraft. They have no capability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Who else was saying what under that? I don't know. Hold on. Let me think of the rates. Let me try to remember the rates. It was I think it was they had like 12K interceptors on hand, and throughout a lot of the rocket stuff from Gaza and Hezbollah, they ended up going through like somewhere between 6 and 8K out of those. So if we take the bigger number, assume they would be down to only 4K. Uh, Hold on, I'm trying to remember their rate. What was the rate of production? The rate of production was like something like, oh, what was it? It was 62? Was it 62 per month? I don't, I can't remember the precise rate. If we take that random, probably fake memory and do 62 times it's been what since well, they didn't restart fast production of those interceptor missiles until 2 months after everything began. So that would be December 2023. So okay, 25 months now. 62 times 25 is 620, 1240, 13. No, wait, hold on. You have to do an extra five. So 310 onto 1240, 1550. If that number is right, then they would be back up to either 5.5 if they went down to the lower estimate of only four remaining. If they went down to 6K remaining, then that would mean they're back up to over 7.5K. But they don't need to have that much on them anymore, though. Remember, because Hezbollah Hezbollah's arsenal is effectively gone. Hezbollah itself is still there. Uh, Hamas's arsenal is also gone, and the better portion of Hamas itself is also no longer there. The and also the Iron Dome was primarily for like smaller stuff. It's not what intercepts ballistic missiles. That's the I think that's David Sling, or is David Sling for cruise missiles? Because they have three different things. The whole Iron Dome network was built and had thousands of interceptors primarily because waves and waves of rocket fire from Gaza and Lebanon was always a thing for decades. That's not the same system that intercepts ballistic missiles, though, because those are a completely different thing. Excuse me, scroll. Thank you. Scroll when I tell you to scroll. Let me take a drink of water. uh, if you can't hear me, that's probably that's going to be on your end. I'm the same. Everything's the same as it's always been, unless everybody else in chat also says that they can't hear me. Random good news to throw on top of everything else. I'll make a video for this, obviously, but recovery of the RLC continues a little bit slower. It gained a little bit less in over the course of last year than it did over 2024. So over 2024, it went from a bit below 20 billion cubic meters back up to 27 billion cubic meters of total water volume. Now, granted, this is out of the original trillion cubic meters of water volume, or 1,000 billion. So it went up by I think it was at 18. I know it was under 20. So it was close to 10 or close to a whole percent. It went up by a bit less this time, but still gained decently over the course of 2025. Now it's up to 34 billion cubic meters. So about 3.5% of the water that was once there. So probably not going to actually get the initially desirable restoration rate of a full percent each year, but bringing it back into existence is still ongoing. It's not like stopping or reversing, it is still going forward. But that'll get its own separate yearly update video, anyways, when the time comes for it. Once I get the official data for that, at least. Uh, is it we're talking about the stream, not the videos. Unless you're saying that the volume on the stream is lower than the volume on the videos themselves. Like I can go up a bit, like a tiny bit. Regards to comment about the Houthis, if if the uprising in Iran succeeds, then in terms of their supplies, in terms of getting weapons, that's kind of game over for the Houthis. The Houthis will not yield, though. They won't like give up, even if they're out of weapons and have nothing but AKs and eventually nothing but swords and bayonets on the end of their now empty AKs. They have proven to be like the penultimate radical death group. They will not stop. Without rockets and missiles, given to them by Iran anymore, they won't really be able to do anything except resist any type of like incursion by the other portion of Yemen to try to reunify the nation, which they would still resist against that even if they only had melee weapons. But yeah, one way or another, they're not going to actually submit to anything. They're one of the few one of the few groups that's not going to come to any kind of table about stuff. Like Hezbollah eventually backed down. Hamas maybe would have at some point, but they're dead, so they kind of can't. And a lot of the other various groups have basically backed down. The Houthis are the only ones that probably never will. Even if they are completely and if they are completely cut off from their former supply of weapons and everything. So if you're asking about like stabilized and singular political entity Yemen, that is going to take a lot because they will not actually give in to anything. It'll turn into hills slash semi mountainous desert Viet Cong scenario. No, where was that going? Over here. How long will Lincoln take? That depends on where it actually is. So supposedly it was only here 24 hours ago, and thus would now probably be about here. And by tomorrow night, it would be, close to Sri Lanka, and then by Sunday night or Monday, it would be right within range in the Middle East. But the statements and released imagery also could have been delayed and or lied about how far it's gone. So it might be like further along than we know. But if that is true, then it would arrive probably Sunday night or sometime on Monday in this general area. Okay, I was about to move on, but here we go with more chat. To all damage they could do to all of Somaliland, not much, because that's a lot of people and towns and ports and everything spread all over the place. If what they meant by that was that they would like attack the base that the IDF sets up, if they do set one up, then they still have enough to where, as if they threw everything at it at once, that they still have. Because again, they're not getting anything else from Iran anymore. But I think based on how sparsely they use them, they probably still have 100 missiles left out of the like 300 they had at the start of everything. If Israel started constructing a base and they threw everything they have left at it at once, they launched them all, then yeah, some of those would probably penetrate the air defense layer eventually. But no, it wouldn't really matter though how many craters you put in the runway because you can just repave that. If you The biggest damage would be in personnel loss if you actually hit and killed critical personnel like military engineers who are constructing the base and or hit aircraft stored at the base or the air defense systems. So that would also depend on how far along in the stages of the base being constructed they launched any such attack and what Israel had stationed there at that point. Like if the IDF does do so and the Houthis say wait until like the airstrip is constructed and the IDF has like some F-16s stationed at the base already. Then, as long as they tried to punch in the coordinates right and succeeded at such, and again, if they did launch everything at once, like the remaining roughly 100 missiles they still have, then they could probably get enough through since you're saturating one location, one set of airspace. Probably enough would get through to damage something. The most valuable targets to go for obviously would be any combat aircraft that are stationed at the base after it's constructed, or the air defense systems themselves, but those are more numerous and uh, kind of cheaper. So the combat jets would be better targets. If they're talking about just randomly, like willy-nilly launching strikes at just random cities in Somaliland, then that's gonna do nothing except make Somali vendors really angry. Granted, Somaliland can't really do anything back, but that's not gonna like endear them to their neighbors by any extent. And if they really specifically wanted uh, to hurt Somaliland, then I guess the best thing they could maybe do was again launch everything that they still have at that one particular port, uh, Berbera, I think, and they could probably get enough in to like take out some of the cargo cranes and hit a few loading terminals. Wow, is it not gonna show? Oh, there it is. Okay, I was right, Berbera. So uh, throwing everything at Berbera would probably be the best bet to do Somaliland any kind of actual damage. But I'm assuming, and this, you can write this off as me just giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming what they meant was that they'll attack the IDF base if the IDF does build a base there. Okay. Thank you for 79 pound cents. I think that's about $1. Wait, 40? What the? Why are there this many people here? This is like the lamest stream you could possibly watch. I don't even do a face cam. I don't do like heavily emotional, supercharged reactions. I don't do I don't break TOS. I don't break TOS terms like Hassan and electrocute a dog, but then still be allowed to stream anyways because he's above the rules. What is everybody doing here? Like this this is like the extent of what you're going to see here, other than when I scroll through things to try to look for actual stuff that I was referencing, like Iran's airspace shutting down overnight. 53, 54, that is the new record, actually. 79 pound cents. That means we have to open the map, the Survive the Apocalypse map. So, I used to live in Alaska, for everybody who doesn't know, up around Fairbanks, straight around there. And back up home, I was able to live off of a mere 8 grand a year. I eventually made more than that and was, able to travel each year even. But down here in South Carolina, right around this area, not so much. And also my income is nowhere near 8 grand anymore. But I figured on the way to trying to get to 8 grand again, since there's over 8 billion people on the planet, roughly $1 can equal like 1 million. So for every dollar, whether from ad revenue, monthly Patreon, or one-time PayPal or YouTube super button stuff, that'll work out to 1 million people. who get arbitrarily designated by me to survive the apocalypse somehow. 79 pound cents is roughly $1 or roughly 1 million. So let me find somewhere. I have only 1 million. Right there, actually, or at least I think they do. We can round down if not. Equatorial Guinea, a little tiny square country down there, and the little island that they own. All right, so people who get to survive the end of the world include Guyana, or everyone in Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, Jamaica, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Alaska, Lithuania, Kazakhstan, Cyprus, Equatorial Guinea, Angola, Namibia, and nobody else. Everybody else sucks to be you. You're all going to die. All right. I had opened this map so that we could color this in real time. I'm not going to do every single piece of every single country, but new announcement from the U.S. State Department that the U.S. is ceasing all allowed immigration from 75 countries at once. These including 49, we're back down, up to 58. All right, I'll take your word from it. Uh, to be within range of hitting Iran, hold on, I'd have to scroll in. Let's see. It's 400, 300 miles. Where did Epic Pen go? Okay, we have to leave, have to go out, draw like that, delete, then go back in, and Epic Pen should exist again. Okay, so that's about 300 miles. Closest for striking in Iran with no in-air refueling. That's 300. That should be about the same length, 300. If they're striking targets anywhere in the southern portion here, they'd need turnaround time, so they have to be this close. The carrier would have to be like within here, right within this line. If the in-air refueling aircraft get up in the air and are circling around places, then jets from the carrier could be as far away as, like, say, here, go up and get refueled, drop bombs, and come back. In the southern portion, to get up into like the western and northern portions, then the carrier would still, even within air refueling, the carrier would still need to be up at like the Gulf of Oman. But we have a bunch of other like combat aircraft in the region itself, plus the IDF's 300 or 350 or so, and the B1s and the B2 and the B2s can just leave from the U.S., fly all the way over there, drop bombs, and then fly all the way back because they have 8,000-mile flight range. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and the internet, and apparently cell phone communication. Uh, I did not know that the Iranian government even cut off cell phone communication within the country. So it's been a full week of the country going dark because they know this is basically the end. I want to make sure I don't miss any on the list. So a whole bunch of countries got have now had uh, allowed immigration to their formerly allowed immigration to the U.S. has been suspended. So Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Armenia, Kuwait randomly for some reason, except Kuwaitis are rich, so they wouldn't be coming to the US anyways. But the list grows, Big Congo, Little Congo, Rwanda, Guinea. I think we had, let's see, plus Albania even. What? Albania, Algeria. So Albania and Algeria, uh, Macedonia, and I'm pretty sure they put Bosnia on there, but I'll have to check a second. Let's see. Tunisia, Togo, Tanzania, Somalia, and both Sudans. So Tunisia, Somalia, both Sudans, Togo, all the Caribbean islands, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Uganda, there's Senegal, Kyrgyzstan, Laos, Liberia, Libya, Lebanon, Liberia, Kyrgyzstan, Libya, Laos. Let's see. Haiti, Jamaica, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo. Kazakhstan, Jordan. That one doesn't really make any sense. Uh, Kosovo is right here. Here, let me draw it in. Very rough drawing of Kosovo. It's right there. Kosovo, Jamaica, Haiti, Guatemala, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Gambia, Sakartvelo. Okay, Guatemala, uh, yeah, Gambia, Sakartvelo, Ghana, Montenegro, Morocco, Nepal, Mongolia, Montenegro, Morocco, Nepal, Mongolia, Yemen, Uzbekistan, Uruguay. Yemen, Uzbekistan. Uruguay is basically a first world country now. Not sure why you're blocking them. Also, barely anyone comes from there. Syria, Tanzania, Thailand, Tanzania, Syria, Thailand, Azerbaijan, Bangladesh, Belarus, Bhutan. No one leaves Bhutan. Azerbaijan, Belarus, Bangladesh, Bosnia, Brazil. Really, actually, kind of surprising. Bosnia, Brazil, Burma, Cambodia, Cameroon, Myanmar, Cambodia, Cameroon, Brazil, Bosnia, uh, forgot Eritrea. Here, don't leave Eritrea out. Oh, Ethiopia as well. Egypt and Colombia. Pakistan, Nigeria, Nicaragua. Nicaragua's there. Nigeria there. Pakistan there. Senegal, blah, blah. Russia. Right, of the countries big enough to be colored in, I think that's pretty much all of them. So, every country in red has now been barred from anyone from there being allowed to immigrate to the US. That came abruptly out of nowhere overnight. The official reason given is that uh, people from said countries tend to end up being government dependents and they want to save money, quote unquote. But it doesn't really actually line up because the amount of money is effectively meaningless. So, apart from just potentially being racism, there are potential, if you want any potential insight into like maybe if there are actual quote unquote strategic reasons, long-term strategic reasons behind what is being done. Let's uh, bring back up Epic Pen. So a potential long-term strategic venture for what's going on, as again, a lot of decisions are not actually made by elected officials. That's not something unique to the U.S., but uh, in case cover your ears in or delete what I just said mentally in case that's a bit too much of too much of a self determination shocker. So things being done now are things that the decision making system within the U.S. was almost certainly intending to do and is going to specifically do now during these 4 or now 3 remaining years because now publicly it can just be passed off as it's Trump being Trump. So this any negative sentiment coming back from all of the various overthrows and direct involvement in the war with China for Taiwan, any of that stuff, retroactively will, if it generates that much negative sentiment, will get to be just retroactively pinned on Trump being Trump. The system as is probably wanted to reduce the inbound numbers, and part of this was already being done just by attitude changes and not lowering the number of people let through to begin with. Uh, the specific bans thing is kind of a weird angle, but again, you could then just retroactively uh, put that specifically on Trump, and just the it was under the Trump administration at the time, so it was probably just a racial thing. And maybe in the future, like the direct doors will be open again, but the numbers themselves will still be heavily thinned. A actual potential like strategic reasoning is to have the US reach its population plateau earlier and at a lower number. So have it level out closer to 350 rather than 370 and sooner, and not continue going upwards as was the expectation at the start of the century, as a means of capping off, uh, putting a cap on, try to draw a beverage bottle, putting a cap on the US's own resource consumption and thus resource needs and dependencies, but also making sure that the threshold in the long term of since we're going to have agricultural issues ourselves, granted not for several decades from now, make sure that the U.S. population will be at a favorable enough number to where any decrease we see from the current 700 million people's worth of agricultural output does not actually like come down to and past whatever our population level actually is, let alone from our actual capabilities, since we're actually capable of growing enough food to feed about 1 billion people. But you guys remember from last stream, I talked about how we waste a lot of the best agricultural land, like the entire state of Iowa, growing corn that explicitly gets used to turn into fuel ethanol, which has a energy yield of at best 1.1 or 1.2. But we started doing that in the 70s, thinking it would rescue us from the oil crisis. Found out it didn't because it sucks. And now we're 50 plus years, or two, you could say two generations into a never ending sunk cost fallacy where we just keep funding this no matter what. But the state of Iowa, if all that corn were sold as food at least, or if it was switched over to something, easier to grow and better to eat for humans like wheat, obviously, it would be enough to feed an additional 80 to 90 million people. So whether 700 dropping from 700 when the aquifers start having issues or dropping from 1 billion when the aquifers start having issues, putting an early cap on the population and even having it start to go down very gradually in one of the scenarios keeps the US in a position to where any capability drop does not remotely come near the actual domestic population. And also, potentially, there is the angle that we want to make sure we keep as wide of a possible export margin as we can in order to uh, do whatever possible to stabilize, to provide food to locations and nations that are going to be running into harsher issues of way faster, much sooner, and would pose geopolitical serious issues if they were allowed to just collapse into starvation-driven anarchy. So you would want to make sure we maintain a fair enough excess bit so that we have enough to keep anybody critical from tipping over any kind of edge. Or, again, as always, I could just be wrong and there could be nothing going on whatsoever, and it's literally just someone in the State Department was just jerking off and uh, thought we're just going to ban brown people or something. But if there is a long-term, like, strategic angle of this whole thing, not just this specific decision, but also just reducing the allowed inbound immigration numbers in general, which the US has been doing over the last couple of years, then all the stuff I said would probably be the most likely reasoning behind that. Sorry, had to take a break to take a sip of water. All right. I promised I would not actually be on this long, so I'm gonna have to end real soon because I'm preventing people in the house from doing stuff. Let's another $5. Awesome. Insane map knowledge. What, you mean knowing what all the countries are? I have always, well, not always had the extent that I do now, but I've always known quite a bit geographically. Like, you can run through the geography quizzes. I used to do that on stream. Uh, is is this still going to work, or is it going to randomly run randomly go into it's so laggy. Can we make this bigger? Is there any way to enlarge this? Hold on, let me try this. Oh man, this is like right. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't do that one. Sorry, guys. That site is going to lag out real bad. It looks like. Another $5 though. Let's see. Who can $5 spare from the apocalypse? Scotland. There you go. Part of my ancestry. 50% German. I'm 50% German, 25% Scottish, I think, and then 25% French. Color in a few islands. There you go. Congratulations, Chatter. You saved Scotland. Uh, Again, everybody else who has not yet been colored in, you're all just gonna die. Sorry. All right. Let me check really quick. Already talked about the Caspian Sea stuff. Uh, no. I mean, they're already doing what they want to do. Like Afghanistan wants to build dams, and it's already doing that. And there's nothing really to take advantage of. Also, Iran's neighbors to the east, except for Pakistan, do not have real militaries. The Taliban is the Taliban, and also it's fractured amongst numerous separatist groups that are now in open revolt. I think the strongest two militaries are like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan nearby, in that direction at least, outside of Pakistan, that is. But neither of them would, even in its current state, Iran would still be able to take them, though. Or 2v1 and Kazakhstan versus Iran. 2v1, they could probably take Iran in its current state. Uh, well, no, that would not be quicker yet, Joe. That because it's 75 banned places out of 197 recognized countries. So that's still below half. Uh, yeah, I know. I'm aware that that's the general thing you get on other streams. Like I think the two I saw like on the side tab going on today were like literally watching a speech by like some politician. I don't know if it was a governor or a senator, but like they were literally just watching a speech and then pausing and then saying something and then watching the speech. I mean, I comment on things that were said during speeches, but I try to limit the time of that, and I also don't literally watch the speech. Like the most recent speech commentary I did was retroactively commenting with regards to the Taiwan situation about Xi Jinping, because on his New Year's speech, where he usually will, talk about how amazing the Chinese economy is doing, even though it's not, and talk about how their population totally isn't going down as fast as anyone thinks it does, and how strong China's becoming. Like this New Year's speech, he he did like the thing Putin did in that weird blog post that Putin posted like just before invading Ukraine. Except he did it verbally. He did it in a speech format where he went on instead of the "this is how awesome China's doing this year," his New Year's speech was like him going off uh, about how Taiwan is coming home to us very soon. The islands can no longer hide from the inescapable momentum of destiny. And so, it's like kind of another flag for anyone who really still doubts for any reason that they're going to do it. He's kind of just telling you to your face now, I'm going to do it. But, anyways, thank you, everybody. I have to go now. So, I will see you guys next time. And the OPEC, monthly OPEC video should be up tomorrow, hopefully, maybe. And then oil demand releases next week. I'll get back to doing the electricity stuff. And I will hope that I get actual confirmed data about the RLC water volume uh, by like the end of this month. But at least at the end of this month, we get the yearly MCS, the data release with all the mining the mining levels and output rates for all the various minerals and stuff that usually releases on the 30th. But anyways, that's it. And